evening, a senior U.S. official tells CNN that President Obama will meet with President Mahmoud Abbas tomorrow. The Palestinian president's campaigning for full UN membership and statehood recognition. The U.S. has promised to block it. The meeting tomorrow is an effort to avoid a diplomatic showdown at the UN this week, and the whole world will be watching. But the question tonight is this: where does all this leave Israel? And joining me now is Ehud Barak, who's the Israeli defense minister and former prime minister. Minister, thank you for joining me. This seems, on the face of it, to be a very pivotal moment for Israel, for Palestine, for the peace process. What is your take on what is happening?
It's not easy. It's really a pivotal moment. I hope and believe that a way should be found to make it a launching pad for a new momentum to resume negotiations, direct negotiations, no preconditions in order to strike a deal. I believe that it's possible. Both of us are for two states, for two people. I think that all the differences are surmountable.
I mean, you say that. I guess the critics argue, look, you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu and yourself, you've been angling for a peace process, for something to happen, for a treaty, for a settlement now for decades. And the promises have kept coming and nothing has happened. Is it really that surprising that the Palestinians are now going to the UN in the way that they are? Doesn't there eventually have to be a cutoff point here?
Oh, you know, just 11 years ago, I was Prime Minister of Israel, and together with President Clinton, we put a far-reaching kind of proposal on the table. Arafat at the time rejected it. Few years ago, Ehud Barak, the then Prime Minister, put an offer to Abu Mazen, and somehow they rejected it. Our legendary Foreign Minister Abba Eban used to say, the Palestinians had never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity. I hope it will not repeat itself. Until now, we are ready. We are ready even now. I met with Abu Mazen 2 or 3 weeks ago in Amman. I met here in this city with Fayyad. I meet very often with Palestinian leaders. They are serious people, but they have to overcome all resistance from within and from some corners of the Arab world and move toward real negotiation with no preconditions. We are ready. We will be there. We'll take care of our security. We have to take care about our future, especially in these volatile, almost volcanic eruptions all around us. But we are ready to make the extra mile and try to reach an agreement.
I mean, the general view appears to be that Israel has never felt more isolated because of the Arab Spring uprisings. That's perfectly understandable, that your own security is at stake, and you're right in the center of that. You're the defense minister. But Rick Perry today, the Republican candidate for the nomination, a man who may be president within a year, has come out today with some pretty strong statements. Let me just play you what he said.
We're equally indignant of the Obama administration and their Middle East policy of appeasement that has encouraged such an ominous act of bad faith.
I mean, appeasement is a very strong word to use. Do you agree with what Rick Perry said?
I don't understand exactly what he meant, in what context he
said. Let me read you exactly the context. He said, we are indignant that certain Middle Eastern leaders have discarded the principle of direct negotiation between the sovereign nation of Israel and the Palestinian leadership. And we are equally indignant that the Obama administration's Middle East policy of appeasement has encouraged such an ominous act of bad faith.
I don't think that the Obama administration encouraged the attitude or whatever is negative in the attitude of Palestinians. I think that they are genuinely trying to promote peace and to bring both sides with all due difference, to bring them together and to push it. And I should tell you honestly that the Obama administration is backing the security of Israel, for which I'm responsible in our government, in a way that could hardly be compared to any previous administration.
Is Barack Obama, in your view, and you're very experienced in this, is he a friend of Israel?
You know, I think, first of all, he's the President of America. He behaved friendly to Israel, especially in security-related issues. He's also trying, to the best of my judgment, to be even-handed with the Palestinians. I don't think that he's part of the problem. He's part of the solution and should be. But it's up to us and mainly to our counterpart, the Palestinian leadership, Abu Mazen and Fayyad and others, to shoulder the burden of leadership and start to move. The issue cannot be solved by the American president or by the quartet. It should be solved by the players on the ground with certain support and tailwind from the rest of the world, which I believe Obama is trying to provide.
I mean, if what you're saying is all accurate, then President Obama clearly is not, in your eyes, somebody who is appeasing the Palestinians. Is it therefore dangerous for Rick Perry to come out with statements like this? Is it inflammatory?
I think that I do not pretend to enter into the American political debate. I don't think that appeasement is a accurate description of the policy of this administration in the United States.
Is it unhelpful? I mean, look, Rick Perry, he's way ahead in the polls to be Republican nominee. President Obama's approval rating, as you know, is at a record low. It is quite likely that Rick Perry might be the next president of the United States. Therefore, he's incredibly important. If he comes out with these kind of statements, isn't that dangerous?
That's up to the American people. We respect whoever you will vote for as your next president. It's not up to us. I don't pretend even to involve in it, but I'm a great fan of honesty in politics. I'm not a great believer in polls, but it's beyond us. We expect any American president from whatever side of the political aisle to be basically pro-Israel in the sense that he might always recognize the common ground, the kind of common basis of values. It puts certain burden upon ourselves to behave accordingly. It puts certain responsibility on you. But I believe that we have a much wider support for Israel basic cause than could be described through party glasses.
Well, when I interviewed Prime Minister Netanyahu earlier this year in Jerusalem. It was a fascinating encounter in many ways. And I suggested to him, look, isn't it time that he, having been Prime Minister twice now and got no nearer a peace deal, is it not time for what I would call the Sadat moment, for somebody on the Israeli side, and currently it would be him, with your assistance, to be the bigger man here, to be the one that takes the bigger step that perhaps is popular with your own people, with your own party? In other words, put peace before politics. Are we not at that moment? I mean, at the moment the Palestinians are circumnavigating you to the United Nations, is it not the time, as many people are crying out for you and Prime Minister Netanyahu to get together and say, we're going to make this happen. We're going to do a deal. We're going to take more pain in negotiation than we would wish to, because the bigger picture is more important?
I believe Prime Minister Netanyahu genuinely believes in the need to move forward and ready to take the risk and to pay the painful price, if it's possible. If there
what is the risk that you think is palatable? What is the risk you're talking about?
It's, you know, Israel, we have, for example, we pulled out under my order as a prime minister from Lebanon after staying there for 18 years. Under international recognition, there is a need, certain UN Security Council resolution and so on. It ended up being the place for, from where 45,000 rockets and missiles are aimed at our population, including the main central areas of Israel, like Tel Aviv. Sharon, out of all people, pulled out from Gaza to the last square inch, the last soldier and settler. We end up now with 10,000 rockets aimed at the southern part of Israel.
Here's my problem. Not my problem. A lot of people have the same. Yeah, there is a problem.
Just,
the problem.
Believe me, just try to think of 50,000 rockets aimed at Manhattan or at Washington, D.C.
I totally understand.
It would create a major risk, a major focus of attention for American president.
Nobody disputes that Israel has massive security issues. Nobody disputes that living under the threat of rockets and everything is an intolerable pressure that you've had to bear. No one disputes this. But also nobody disputes that the oppression, as many see it, of so many Palestinians, millions of Palestinians, particularly in the places like the Gaza Strip, it can't go on. This impasse has to end. There has to be a finish to this. And that's where people look to you and to Prime Minister Netanyahu to say, You've been round the block a long time on this. This is the time for you to make the big move. I mean, I'll read you what was a fascinating article by Thomas Friedman, pretty damning, about the administration in Israel. He said, I've never been more worried about Israel's future. The crumbling of key pillars of Israel's security, the peace with Egypt, stability in Syria, the friendship of Turkey and Jordan, coupled with the most diplomatically inept and strategically incompetent government in Israel's history, have put Israel in a very dangerous position. Strong words.
Yeah, it's strong words. I highly appreciate Tom Friedman, but let me tell you, the developments in the Arab world, what's called the Arab Spring, it's a political earthquake we had not witnessed since the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, is not something that had been created by us or caused by the fact that we have a conflict with Palestinians. It would have happened anyhow. And what happens now to Turkey after 100 years of Kemalism is something which is beyond our control. It might take place anyhow. So we should not hold ourselves responsible for whatever happens in the Arab world. On the other hand, if you mentioned Gaza, you know, in Gaza Strip, we are no more an effective holder of the area. There is Hamas government. We gave it to the Fatah, and they lost it in a coup d'etat to the Hamas, which is a terror organization with no common ground to talk about. So basically, even Abu Mazen in Ramallah doesn't control half of his own people when it comes to talking on their behalf. So it's not that simple. Believe me, if it were much simpler, it would have been already behind us. It's a difficult issue to solve. We have to be responsible for our security. We have a primary contract with our civilian population to protect them against things that are happening day and night all around us in the Middle East.
Hold that thought.
We have to do it.
Hold that thought. Let's come back after the break and discuss specifically the effects of the Arab Spring on Israel and its security. Now with Ehud Barak, who's Israeli Defense Minister and former Prime Minister. Minister, talk to me about the Arab Spring. We touched on it earlier, but clearly an extraordinary few months for the region. I mean, this is the kind of activity that would normally take generations to happen. And it's all happened in a few months. And right in the middle of it is Israel. I think most right-minded people feel absolute sympathy with the sense that Israel must feel of really being isolated, of being vulnerable, of being surrounded now by almost constant instability. What is it like to be the Israeli defense minister in the middle of all this?
It's clear to us that we have to rely upon ourselves, that it's a tough neighborhood, no mercy for the weak, no second opportunity for those who cannot defend themselves. And we, in a moment of truth, and we looked very carefully on Egypt, on Tunisia, on Libya, on Syria. It's clear to us we will have to stand alone. So we have to be strong and self-confident and well-trained and well-equipped. And in this regard, the Americans are helping us, this administration, extremely consistently and well. And but at the same time, we have to be open-eyed. The events are beyond our control. I compare it to the need to cross a white river. You cannot just close your eyes, say the Lord is with us, and you cannot say, okay, nothing could be done, I'm just there. You have to enter into it, use these, how you call these, poles that you use to navigate and to take enough time. You cannot change the direction of the whole stream, but you can choose the point of launching of your crossing attempt in a way that will help you to navigate.
Do you think
we have to work. We have to be active. We shouldn't be paralyzed like a rabbit under the lights of...
Let me ask you, do you think that people in the West have a slightly fanciful notion of what the Arab Spring has actually been? In the sense that, and the reason I ask that, take somewhere like Egypt, where there's this huge uprising. In 18 days, there's a revolution. Everyone then gets on with their lives, but Egypt carries on. And what appears to be happening now is the Muslim Brotherhood, the more extremist ends of the Islamic fundamentalists and so on, appear to be seizing more and more political influence and power. Is that what's really concerning you? Are you worried you're going to end up with a whole load of Iran?
Let me tell you the following. First of all, I feel the pain for Mubarak. He served his country in a exemplary manner for 30 years. But once it's happened, it becomes an inspiring moment. It's a moving event to see the Arab world standing on its feet and the young generation demands the basic rights. But that's promising in the long term. In the short and medium term, it's going to be very tough. Remember the French Revolution. The Arab societies will go through ups and downs, quite violent periods, and probably some Muslim Brotherhood will take place. There is no basic ripeness for Jeffersonian democracy. You cannot expect an intellectual like Václav Havel in the Czech Republic emerge as a leader. It will be a strong battle between basically the armed forces and the Muslim Brotherhood in many of the countries.
Like I said, do you worry that you may end up with a series of mini Irans coming out of this Arab Spring, where you have the Islamists basically controlling these countries in a way they never had before?
First of all, we are worried, but a person cannot choose his parents, and a nation cannot choose its neighbors, whoever they are. And these are our neighbors. We would prefer to have the Canadians as our neighbors, but you got them. It's a...
Not every American's happy about that.
We are the strongest, believe me, we are still, and for the foreseeable future, the strongest country 1,000 miles around Jerusalem, from Tripoli in Libya to Tehran. And we are aware of it. We know that part of it is out of the generosity and the far-sightedness of American presidents, including President Obama. And at the same time, we understand that we cannot ask someone else to protect us. We should be ready to do it on our own and protect the future and the population of Israel against any threat from the whole region.
You're a man of history. I mean, this is the time, isn't it, when you have the UN now greeting the Palestinians, whatever comes out of these votes, and we're not quite sure how it's all going to play out, but the whole Arab Spring uprisings, everything has moved the game on for Israel and Palestine. This is the time to do this deal, isn't it?
It was the time 10 years and 20 years ago, but ever more so. It's now. I cannot say that it's now or never. We cannot control history. I have nothing against the legitimacy of a Palestinian state. We say loud and clear, we are for two states, for two nations, a secure and protectable or defendable Israel, side by side with a demilitarized Palestinian viable state.
You rightly referred to the great encounter you had with President Clinton that nearly led to a deal. You said that Yasser Arafat, in the end, blocked it when many felt it was going to happen. And President Clinton felt very frustrated by that. I'm sure you did too. Do you feel, after all these decades you've dealt with Palestinian leadership, that the current leadership, even if they don't have complete control over all the elements of the Palestinians, do you feel that there is more chance now of doing a deal with the people at the head of the Palestinian leadership than you've had in your lifetime?
See, only time will tell.
Does your gut instinct tell you that?
Still have to be proven, but I feel that Hamas are much worse than what we have met in the past, and that Abu Mazen, Fayyad, and some other around them are sincere and genuine Palestinian leaders who genuinely reject terror, and that's a great news. The Hamas does the opposite, and they are somehow have to find a way to oppress, to suppress, to eliminate politically the Hamas influence on their destiny. I think that they deserve it's not the benefit of the doubt. They deserve the opportunity to prove that they are there. We are ready. We expect them to come to the table and let's negotiate both the bottom-up aspect, which Fayyad deals with, and the top-down aspect, which Abu Mazen deals with, on an open table with no precondition, trying sincerely, genuinely to overcome. It will be painful, but it is surmountable, and I do not buy the idea that either the Palestinian needs or our needs can make it impossible to be bridged.
Minister, thank you very much.
Thank you.